a very happy Thanksgiving Day, everybody. Should be a day of celebration all the way around, including for the degenerates out there. I'm Jeff DeForrest. Welcome to this special holiday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I do have a distinction on Thanksgiving Day. No, I haven't hit the majority of the bets that I've made. It used to be dreadful. Remember watching the Lions on Thanksgiving Day? My God, if you were going to spend time with the family, it was during that Lions game. Watching Al T. Taylor run the football 17 straight times, never going for more than 2 yards at a crack. The Lions are losing year after year after year. That's not the case anymore. Right now, they're the most electrifying and the hottest team in the National Football League. But the distinction I hold is that I lead the league in blown Thanksgiving dinners. Blown Thanksgiving dinners. One time, I took a turkey to a restaurant. A friend of mine said he would fry it for me. I got it back. Looked great. When we cut it open, it was as raw as the day is long. Another time, my dad, who was a brilliant Thanksgiving Day cook, and the family used to covet coming over. Even the people that didn't like our faction of the family would love to come over for Thanksgiving dinner. But he had some kind of obsession, he and my mother later in life, where they didn't want to use the oven in the place that they were living, the condo that they were living in. And so my dad tried to microwave everything on Thanksgiving Day. So here was a guy that could have been a James Beard Award recipient who had actually won a prize a long time ago for submitting a recipe to the great legendary cook, Julia Child, who had a television show back then pioneering this whole thing about food being on TV. My dad ends up running second for one of his recipe submissions, and he completely blows this Thanksgiving dinner, as it looked like something that would have come out of Escape from New York in the closing scenes if they had found a turkey dinner somewhere. Absolutely scorched and inaudible. Best one though was I took a girl that I had just started seeing within that month out to Las Vegas. I was covering a fight out in Las Vegas around Thanksgiving. This was the weekend before, and we got into just an horrific difference of opinion. Let's put it that way, to the point where I was ready to book her a one-way flight to send her home. And unfortunately for me, we had made arrangements with her and her family to come to my house for Thanksgiving. So, out of courtesy, not wanting to blow her whole family off for Thanksgiving and ruin their holiday too, we made an agreement, that kind of like a ceasefire, where we were just going to be cordial to each other through Thanksgiving and then never see each other again. And sure enough, that's a hard thing to uphold, that kind of ethic and that kind of dynamic. And so it did get dicey between us during Thanksgiving. I lived in a waterfront home on a canal that led out to the Atlantic Ocean. And as we got to the height of this differential that we were experiencing, the turkey that she had made, which wasn't really, it didn't look all that great, she fires it at my head and it ends up in the canal as we're trying to fake this whole thing. I mean, this was going to be the Last Supper either way for the two of us as an item. And the turkey, I still can see it. I can still envision it floating away in the canal there as the tide was going out. And I believe to this day, it's probably somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So it hasn't always been the best of holidays for me, but we're hoping that you guys have a good one. And we're going to try and make you some money here with Mike Jones, who's going to join us on the show, giving up some time on his Thanksgiving Day to explore the Turkey Day trifecta that we're going to try and hit. Now, this Thanksgiving holiday, why not head to the world's betting platform and your number one source, Bet Online. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with constant real-time odds and action all the way through. Your ability to watch the games and bet on them as they're taking place. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL, UFC, boxing, a lot of big matches coming up. Head to the website today to see why BetOnline is America's most trusted site for online wagering. Hey, Lou, did that money come in from Costa Rica? You don't have to worry about that with BetOnline. It's safe. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right, happy holiday. My man Mike Jones joining us. I mean, you talk about loyal. Every Thursday he's here. I can smell the bird in the oven there at the Jones household. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right, Jeff. Looking forward to a nice Thanksgiving. Hopefully, the people bring me luck like the games. It's just one of those great holidays that we have in American tradition.
Remember how dreadful it was? I mean, you go back a ways like I do, watching those, and that was the time to go out and actually toss a football around with your athletic uncle. where
Mm-hmm.
the Lions were on TV in the early game. There were only two offerings traditionally. It was the Lions and
That's right.
Dallas hosting
Mm-hmm.
somebody. And that Lions game was always an atrocity. My God. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you'd almost rather watch the soap operas that they bumped to instead of having to witness these dreadful displays by the Detroit Lions. But that's hardly the case this year.
Yeah.
It's a team that has been electrifying so far. Well, the last couple of seasons, and but for some really bad calls by Dan Campbell on fourth down situations in their playoff game against the 49ers, might have got this hard-working blue-collar city a Super Bowl championship. But what do you think? I mean, so far, are they the best of what you've seen, Mike Jones?
I think so. I think their offensive line is shown to be the best in the game. And I think when they get down to it, they can run and throw it. There's skilled people all over the place. Watching them play Jacksonville a few weeks ago, I was talking to a Lions fan and said it seemed like they were getting 6-7 yards in the running game, without batting an eye before they get touched. Kind of similar to what I saw on Sunday with the dreaded Saquon Barkley putting on a show. It seems like these guys are getting through the line and they can't stop it. So I look for teams that can run the football, and I think probably the Lions' offense is the most efficient in the league right now. So I'd say they're going to be a tough out. And they showed last week only allowing 6. I mean, 6 points of the Colts, which was a big play for all the sharps that I talked to in Vegas. We're all over the Colts. And sure enough, the Lions pull out, what is that now, 9 covers this year. And if you buy half points, you get a push against Houston. So you've made a fortune with the Lions all year. And it's hard to see how I saw the line just drop this morning from 10.5 to 10. I mean, you short week and you look at that game and you're saying the Bears have had 2 really, really tough games, division games with, Green Bay getting a field goal blocked at the end and then overtime last week against Minnesota. Can they bounce for a third straight game in the division and going up to Detroit on a short week? I mean, it's a tough spot, for any team, but let alone what the Bears are going to go through. So but I'm going to go a step further. I like watching Greg Landry. I used to love watching those games before the Dome. But boy, it was a treat when you knew Barry Sanders was coming to town. So that decade in the 90s when I used to really get fired up when I was a younger guy to watch Barry Sanders run. So I look forward to that. And then I can always remember, that same time being a kid and getting ready for Roger Staubach. That was always a fun watch. And now then you had the great teams in Dallas in the 90s where you knew what was happening. You were just hoping the Giants weren't scheduled on Thanksgiving with Troy Aikman. Now I've gotten 2 out of the last 3 years. So the worst part of my Thanksgiving is I got to watch my boys play and embarrass themselves again, probably.
Well, and that brings us to the first game on the slate here coming up on Thanksgiving. And is there anything better than being alive for a 3-team parlay going into the night game now that they've added the huge trifecta? And not like it's going to be easy because 2 of the games look highly competitive, and the other one you would have to always be suspect about double-digit underdogs against the spread, especially as you mentioned there. And it sounded like you got to lean towards the Lions, but the Bears at least raise question marks getting 10 and a hook. So we'll get to that. But we want to start with your G-Man. Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, a great Cinderella story for a brief period of time last year. And when reality kicked in, the truth was you were thinking this guy will be lucky to make the roster the ensuing season. He does make the roster, although you talk about somewhat anonymously. Many people, I don't think, even knew he was still in the league. We didn't see much from him. He gets to start now. Your man, Daniel Jones, who, by the way, would the Dolphins not be wise to try and sign this guy as a backup after the dreadful performances we've seen from backup quarterbacks at $375,000? As an insurance policy for his last 6 games? Would that? I don't know that he would sign here, but clearly wherever he goes, he's likely going to be a backup quarterback unless he goes to San Francisco and Purdy is out for a period of time. But I thought that he would have been snatched up by somebody pretty quickly because of the dreadful state of affairs of backup quarterbacks around the NFL. Hell, for that matter, of starting quarterbacks with a lot of teams. But the chances of him getting to a contender, I don't know if he'd be inclined to go to Las Vegas with Minshew out for the season. But I would think if you're Daniel Jones, you're going to continue to play this season, that you would want to get out there and have a chance to maybe demonstrate that in a different position you could do something else. But that being said, Tommy DeVito did little to distinguish himself. He was more or less back to ragu, especially early in the beginning. Never mind the Rayo's spaghetti sauce at $11.99 a jar. We're talking about $2.99 in their BOGO at your local supermarket. Not to demean him or diminish what he's accomplished to even be in the National Football League, but I don't know that he strikes you as somebody that's going to suddenly turn around the fortunes of the New York Giants. That being said, and I think you texted this to me right away during the Dallas game last week, where you said that Dallas was probably a play this week, and I would agree with you. I would have been willing to lay more than the 3.5 that I currently see this line at with the Dallas Cowboys over what appears to be a pretty hapless and lifeless Giants team. What do you think?
Here's an interesting thing. So I see the line 2.5, 3. I make a small bet at 3 as soon as it came out. I see it go to 4. The interesting report out of the Giants is DeVito is hurt. My tweet to all the Giant fans or what I've said is that if we have a guy that we watched on Sunday healthy put out that performance, what are we even thinking about playing a guy who's nicked up that really has struggled and looked like will continue just as he just doesn't see the field right. It looks like he's hesitant to make throws. You're watching the roots of the guys not getting the ball. They're shaking their heads. Now you're making the Malik neighbors come out and say, did we play tough or we soft? They got to go to Drew Lock. They just got to see what their $5 million is worth. The guy's had 23 starts in the league, played on 3 teams, was a Denver starter at one point. I mean, you brought the guy in, you paid him $5 million to be your backup, but you jumped him. Why? I have no idea. They say it's put dissension in the locker room, but here's where I'm going to take a little twist on this. Growing up a pro wrestling, you can't go to a pro wrestling match and go over to the wrestler and say, is wrestling fake? You see what happens. When you question a team's toughness, when you question their ability to put out effort, I think you're basically calling wrestling fake. And I think the Giants, in a weird way, will somehow respond to this because I think that is the whole thing. Dexter Lawrence said it. Malik Neighbors said it. Brian Burns was asking. The media ran with it. Once you question a team's toughness, it's questioning your man in football. Do I think the Giants show up? I have an early bet on Dallas. I now would probably lean a little bit toward the Giants if I saw 4.5 on Sunday, if they play Drew Lock and if this all goes down. I just feel like that whole locker room scene about toughness makes me think that it's not that easy. Dallas should be a bigger favorite in this game after their performance last week, but yet Dallas has been dreadful weeks prior. So they always say in the NFL, you can't really look at what last week. You got to look at more outside of the last performance you see because of adjustments. You hate the short week. I just think if DeVito plays, you have to take Dallas. But if they make the switch and it kind of rallies the troops a little bit, which I think that's what basically you were hearing in the locker room is they were questioning the coaching decision. Why did they go to this player that we already know? And it seemed like they were rolling cover. Tampa was rolling coverage, and Malik Neighbors, who I gave out as a prop, didn't have a target or a catch in the first half, but yet still went over his yards because they threw it him 4 straight times in the second half when the game was 23-0. It didn't matter.
All right.
That's my analysis on it. It's tough to pick the game, but you got to lean a little bit.
Very, very emotional.
My team.
Equation.
The other games are easier to pick.
Yes. Well, and Dallas is certainly no juggernaut. I mean, they walked off the field as if they'd won the Super Bowl, but you have to give them credit for not becoming totally disenchanted with the season and actually mustering up not only ability to control most of the game, but then hang on and win the game in the end, which they like a lot of games in the NFL and in college football too this year, and came down to the final couple of plays and still. Surprisingly, as much as Dallas was in charge, remained undecided until the final moments. So ultimately, there was an onside kick returned that opened the spread up a little bit wider. But Dallas was a double-digit underdog in that game. So, I like the fact that they stayed plugged in a little bit and seemed to care about it. I still think I don't know that the Giants' shortcomings can be overcome. By some kind of emotional boost that they get from being called wimps. So by their own people. It wasn't as if, people started saying, oh, geez, that team's weak. They checked out. It was their own guy that sparked all of this.
That's right.
Dallas Cowboys. But I'll wish you all the best with your new Dallas dignity could possibly be left from what has been a really, really sorry and negative season. All right, so you're on one side on that game. I'm on the other.
Right.
We look, and you started to give us some excellent theories there on the Lions and the Bears. What did you ultimately come up with? Are you going to
Yeah.
take or lay the 10
Yeah,
and a half?
I'm gonna lay it. I've been struggling with laying the big double digits. I hate to do it, but again, in this game, you got a team that's been great against the number all year. The Bears are coming off two division games, an overtime game, short week. Wouldn't be surprised if the Lions don't cover, but I'd be surprised if they got beat. They're still playing for home field now with Philly on their tail, so they still have something to ride out. I'd like to have everything go through Detroit, but yeah, I think they're playing the spot.
All right, you're a fight fan, so you can appreciate the anticipation of an excellent matchup. Even if it's not necessarily the top tier fighters, you get a couple of guys that are ranked inside the top 10, and they're going to do battle, and you've been waiting to see who is the better of the up and comers. So, in this case, a very attractive matchup: Green Bay and Miami. Green Bay coming off an impressive dismantling of the San Francisco 49ers. We refer to it as a dismembering because that's what the
Yeah.
49ers look like. I mean, backup
Mhm.
quarterback in there. McCaffrey doesn't appear to be back all the way from what was plaguing him in terms of injury recovery. You've had Debo Samuel banged up. They lost their left tackle. So there were
Mhm.
many reasons to think that the 5.5 was more than attractive, almost a gift
Yeah.
with the Green Bay
Right.
Packers last
Yeah.
week. Now, the Packers, to their credit, did what was necessary, acquitted themselves very well, looked sharp in the ball game, and held on very easily for
Mhm.
a dominating victory. There at Lambeau, the Miami Dolphins, though, have resurfaced out of nowhere with a little bit of a different look than
Yep.
you would have anticipated going into the season. You thought they were going to be this big time high wire act. We've seen
Mhm.
Tyreek Hill maybe compromised by being slammed to the cement by the Miami police. And that might have been the biggest development in the Dolphins season so far because his
Right.
numbers are about half what they were at this stage of
Yeah.
the season last year when he was setting
Mhm.
all kinds of records. They've discovered a new weapon offensively in Jonnu Smith, so that was an excellent
Mhm.
pickup, and they're
Right.
taking great advantage of him. Waddle, has returned to form. Had a big ball game this past week
Mhm.
against the Patriots, and the Dolphins have been looking good. I mean, they're far more in sync than they were at any time, even in the beginning of the season when Tua was in there prior to getting hurt. They barely lose on a 61-yard field goal by a very unreliable Tyler Bass in Buffalo. Come
Right.
back, win three in a row, including a road game against the Rams.
Right.
I have them in there with a shot. I usually don't like the Dolphins in these spots, but
Mhm.
I have to consider them in there with a shot. I've seen that line fluctuate to 3.5. At 3.5, since I believe the Dolphins have a chance to win the game outright,
Mhm.
I would be inclined to take the points. How do you feel about Green Bay and Miami?
Very interesting game. A balmy zero. It's supposed to be a kickoff, so you
Oh,
say,
is it
"Oh,
that
two."
low? I saw like 20s or something like
Oh, you
that.
did? Oh, okay. They early in the week, I saw that someone put out a report that it was going to be. If it's in the 20s, I like Miami even more. And here's why: they've established a running game. I think that what they realized that Kansas City game last year, that they relied too much on Tua. He got hurt. I think Miami's concentrating on what's going to happen when they go on the road and play in these cold weather climates, Kansas City, Buffalo, if they make the playoffs, where they're going to have to go. I think this is the game they've geared up for early on, realizing they're playing Thanksgiving night game, possibly a cold weather game in Green Bay. Tua's looked a little better. I know the competition hasn't been great last couple of weeks with New England and the Raiders, but I'm kind of inclined with you. The dogs seem to be okay on this day. This day I already got 1-1. One on a favorite of the other dog. I'm leaning a little bit toward Miami, and I think they're going to be ready to go and show up. I think it's an emotional win to go in that Green Bay had, even though it looked a little easier on video when you watch it. But it's still an emotional game getting geared up for the team that eliminates you in the playoffs the year before. So maybe they leave a little bit on the field that they left and played so well last week against San Francisco that the Dolphins could catch them. I'm with you on this one.
The cold weather factor it certainly is applicable. I mean, if you're going to follow trends, this is one that has enough of a kind of resume to make you think that there was something to it. And we experienced sub 60-degree temperatures here uh, weekend before this in South Florida, and I was outside at a little musical event, and I was fucking freezing, Mike Jones. And I have a pretty good tolerance for cold. I mean, I used to be one of those guys that wanted to be
Yeah.
skins when you were playing in the wintertime and you had to clear the ice off the court. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
shirts and skins, and yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
skins. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Real men. I kind of like that fat guy that they always show that's in the stands in Cleveland. you have a
Yeah.
musician with on TV who's shirtless, even though the snow is
Yeah.
coming and hitting the guy in the face and it's covering the field. So cold weather games, though. The Dolphins 3-7 under Mike McDaniel. This is sub 40 temperatures outside,
Mhm.
and two is 4-9. Overall, though, throughout history, which is what people take a deeper look at, the team is like 26-48 in sub 40
Okay.
temperatures. Now, you would have to factor in that probably all of those games are on the road, since it's rarely under 40 here in South Florida. So unlikely that that includes a lot of home games.
Yeah.
So they probably have an upside down record in those spots anyway. So, and they haven't been a great team over the years, and that would also apply to the equation. I think you can discount the performance in Kansas City because
Right.
that was
That
not
was
a cold weather
right.
game. That was an atrocity. And,
Right.
people were getting frostbite just on the sidelines there. So you can't imagine that it was too comfortable for players that are unaccustomed to the conditions that the Chiefs would have been more used to. So yeah, I don't think though. I mean, the weather report, and if you could book the weatherman's action, you'd be a rich man today. We know this, but the weather report called for not really any precipitation of any significance. In fact, none, and maybe 25 degrees at kickoff. So very
Right.
favorable if you were going to be the Dolphins in that spot. Very favorable
Right.
in that regard.
Mhm.
All right, you were looking to make some money over the weekend, though. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. And will there be an over under on the number of pounds that your turkey will weigh in the Jones household? Are you going over under? Because we usually establish a family of 4, 20 and a hook.
Unfortunately, I know what the size of the bird is, so that'd be cheating if I gave you an over under on it. But yeah, it's we're going to go a little under this year. You know,
Oh,
we're
okay.
all going to take off the weight, so we're going a little under on the 20 and a half bird.
And you
So
already know what the number is. So
I did. I did. Yeah,
that's
I got
right.
cheated yesterday. I saw it come in the fridge, so I said, "Up, I got the edge on this one.
You could
Got to
be
try to get a winner any way you can."
you could have had inside information that Giannis Antetokounmpo wasn't going to play against the Miami Heat on Tuesday,
Yeah,
right? And that line went from 1.5 to 6 in favor of the Heat, and then you ended up getting a knife right in your back because they won outright anyway
that's right.
without Antetokounmpo. So it can be deceiving. All right, what are you looking at, Mike Jones? Give us a couple of picks for the weekend.
Okay, so we're going to stay in the household. Big game, rivalry game. Two teams that are on the outside, possibly thinking of a potential playoff spot. South Carolina goes and plays their rival Clemson. Huge game in the family. The rival that we have left on the schedule since Georgia got taken off with the new emergence of the bigger conference. You know, Clemson's played a little weaker schedule. South Carolina's played pretty well last couple of years. They almost had a hiccup against Missouri, but they played well. I really like them in this spot. They won it. I think they were 1-10 in their last 11 against South Carolina. I think Spurrier was the last guy who had success against them. This is a weird game. I think physically they match up pretty well. I see kind of a low scoring game. I think the quarterback, as Sellers, has been playing a lot better for South Carolina. I think they pull out the win and then they hope things fall where they may and maybe sneak in at the 12th spot in the playoff.
Excellent. All right, so you like South Carolina in this spot. You're in
Mm-hmm.
agreement with Scotty M, who also is looking towards South Carolina to cover, to get 2.5 against Clemson, which
Mm-hmm.
Clemson's been up and down. So I'm inclined to lean with you on this one, and I'm especially rooting for you because it's a family affair. All right, so you
Yeah.
have South Carolina plus 2.5 over Clemson. What else
Yeah.
are you?
I'm gonna take you over to Sunday. I'll leave you with two games on Sunday. I kind of thought very interesting how Callahan at Tennessee has said a lot of nice things about Will Levis. I have a big Titan fan in the family who's been against the Will Levis playing, but looked pretty good in an upset against Houston. And I'm not sure they can't pull the same upset this weekend, but I like him getting the 5.5 at Washington. I think Jaden Daniels, since the injury, hasn't been the same quarterback. Got stuck on him last week. I don't know if it's a revengeful play because I lost with the Washington laying the 10.5 to Dallas last week, but I kind of see that it's starting to catch up. 3 in a row losses, all tough games. Tennessee getting 5.5 may not win the game, but I think they keep it close.
All right, very good. So we have the Tennessee Titans, a team that was dreadful against the point spread for most of the season. Now maybe surfacing in a more favorable light and getting 5 and a hook against a possibly fading Washington Commander team. They do make things difficult, the Commanders. There's no doubt about that. All right, and the last one?
Well, we're going to go to New York. Just see a team that kind of looks emotionally beat up. GM gone, coach gone. Aaron Rodgers thinks like he's kind of acts like he's in, but who knows if he's not checked out. Seattle goes up there as a 2.5 point favorite. Yeah, tough to go across the country and play, but Seattle's looked pretty well and wins over Arizona and San Francisco the last 2 weeks. The line still, again, the Jets have been a team that's been favored 9 times this year. It's shocking. And this line is still maybe slightly short the way things are going. Yeah, can the Jets rise up? Do they have the talent to play? Yeah. I don't know. I kind of think Seattle's going to make it a little run here for the division. I like them laying 2.5 on the road in New York.
Tough bunch of competing sons of guns, the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
To give them credit there. They really
Yeah.
are. Maybe not the most talented team, but they're going to go in there and give it the effort that it would take to at least give you a chance.
Yeah.
Playing 2.5 here against the New York Jet team that really does appear to be. I mean, think about this. The Jets are consulting Mike Tannenbaum to see if they can fix their
It's amazing. Yeah.
organizational problems. A guy that buried 2 franchises. I mean, this guy's buried more people than your local funeral director. And he's done it with the Jets. They never recovered from his tenure there. And with the Dolphins, they're still in a recovery mode. So
Yeah.
they're just taking it one day at a time, the post-Tannenbaum era. So now he's
That's
advising them on where to go next. All right, where can people find your selections, Mike Jones, if they want to learn more about what you're picking?
The Big Gunner podcast on Spotify. We have a few more that we've put out there, and picksforprofits.com, where we only pick one game on that service, and hopefully it's the right side. But yeah, we were 3-2 last week. We got off the San Francisco game when Purdy was out, so we don't want to count that when we laid 2.5. But we've been okay. So
yeah, well, we got pounded. I mean, we may as well have been a heavy bag in those Mike Tyson gymnasium shots because overall, the quartet of guys plus me, we got pounded last week. So we're trying to make amends this week. You and your family, Mike Jones, have a great Thanksgiving celebration. We'll talk to you.
You too, Jeff. And happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners out there. Have a great holiday.
All right, thanks so much. Mike Jones, ladies and gentlemen, with us here. So have a little bit of a difference of opinion there. He's going to go with the G-Men based on this emotional boost they got from internally their own team, including Malik Neighbors, saying, hey, we were soft. That was a big issue in my beloved New York Post. We're going back and forth about that. I don't know that I buy into that being such a high motivational factor, and I'm still not sure it's enough to overcome all of the difficulties that they're facing on the field. So their play has been less than inspiring. I'm not sure that just stating the obvious, which was that you're worthless and weak, it's going to be enough to get them over the hump there against I have to applaud the Dallas Cowboys as much as we love to see them lose. The fact that they actually went out there and exhibited that kind of effort in a game in a season that's completely lost, I thought made them look like standouts at home against the New York Giants. All right, we will see you guys tomorrow. We'll have a special edition of the program for you. The professor should be joining us, and good luck with all your wagers, and I hope you hit that Turkey Day trifecta. For the people at BetOnline, NoFilter.net, and Greenlight Ventures, I'm Jeff DeForrest. And happy holidays, everybody. Have a great day here on Thanksgiving Day for the people on Bury Your Bookie.